Recordings from 2022, a Holy Mass led by Pope Francis for the Congolese community in Rome. During the Mass, Pope Francis asked for prayers for peace in what he described as wounded nation. And during his visit to Congo this year, he warned that the poison of greed for natural resources is fueling the conflict in the Democratic Republic of Congo. Hands off Africa, said Pope Francis in January during his visit to Congo. In October this year at the UN in Geneva, during a session of the 54th UN Human Rights Council on the situation in Congo, the Holy See expressed its deep concern about the alarming human rights situation in Congo. We are now speaking with His Excellency Archbishop Ettore Balestrero, permanent representative of the Holy See to the UN in Geneva. The Archbishop was Apostolic Nuncio in the Democratic Republic of Congo from 2019 to June of this year, 4 years. And so he speaks of his personal experience. He also played a leading role in preparing and accompanying the Pope's visit to the Congo this year. Congo, a geological scandal, now here in the still EWTN TV UN blog, shortly report from Geneva. Good afternoon. So this continues to be about issues from the 54th UN Human Rights Council session in October this year, in which the Holy See participated. Topic: human rights situation in the Democratic Republic of Congo. As always, I'm connected now with the offices of the Holy See in Chambersy, here near Geneva. And I'm speaking with the Apostolic Nuncio, permanent representative of the Holy See to the UN in Geneva, His Excellency Archbishop Ettore Balestrero. I greet you, Excellency.
Good morning, Christian. Good morning to all those who are listening to us. Happy to be back with you. Happy to have the occasions to revisit our activities and to exchange and with your public what our experience is and what we can help also the others to experience through us.
Excellency, just to clarify, the statement of the Holy See during this session was made by Monsignor John Putzer of the Mission of the Holy See, not by you, as usual. Was there a reason for this, perhaps because you were previously assigned as nuncio in the Democratic Republic of Congo and there was a sort of conflict of interest? What was the reason?
Thank you. No, there was just a conflict of agenda, not a conflict of competence. Or attribution. The point was that that day we had our Undersecretary of the Holy See for Relations with States was here in Geneva. In practically the Vice Minister of Foreign Affairs of the Holy See was here, and for a number of meetings. And so I had to accompany him and to participate at those meetings. And so I didn't have the opportunity to go and deliver the statement. However, I, of course, prepared that statement, and I was happy to do that because, in a way, I feel very close to the Congo, and I think with all the limitations that are possible for foreigners, however, I know the situation pretty well, and I think it was a good occasion to let people know what the situation is and also to encourage people to be close to the Congo and the Congolese to help themselves to improve their situation through the recommendations that they received.
Before we talk about the exploitation of mineral resources in Congo, a quick word about the situation of the Church in Congo. According to Vatican News in January this year, the Congolese Catholic Church is still one of the most vibrant churches in Africa, despite the continuing political instability in the country. This is evidenced by the constantly growing number of Catholics, who make up around 33% of the population. 90% of the population are Christians. The high level of church attendance, including among young people, the flourishing of vocations, the commitment of Catholic lay people, and the broad presence in society and even in the media. In Congo, there are a total of 4,602 diocesan priests working in almost 1,500 parishes and 48 dioceses and Many Congolese priests from Fidei Donum, a coordination office of the German Bishops' Conference, work in Africa, Europe and America, says journalist Lisa Sangarini of Vatican News. So a living church, the Catholic Church in Congo, Your Excellency.
Well, this takes me to somehow the reason why I feel so close to the Congo, Because the Congo, contrary to what it seems and to what is considered, is not just a question of minerals and of rare earth. The Congo is men, the Congo is women, the Congo is children. The Congo which I knew are the sisters, for instance, who live in the east where there is an ongoing conflict and who did not want to leave their hospital where they are serving because they wanted to stay, and in case they had left, the people would have remained without medicines. The Congolese are the priests to whom I spoke regularly at night when the conflict was over, always in the east. And I spoke with them because they decided to remain in the parishes and to be somehow the recipients of the nearly 1 million displaced person who in 6 months arrived in the eastern part of the Congo. So this is the Congo I love. This is the Congo which I discovered, which is not just problems. Congo, I would say, is also hope, is resilience. And I would say the testimonies of the victims of violence, which I heard, which I collected, and which the Pope, that you were mentioning, also could hear, are testimonies of forgiveness. And the testimonies of the people who welcome all the displaced people, who give them a space, a place in their homes, but even more, a place in their heart. All these testimonies show that in the Congo, faith in Christ is truly embodied in the hearts of tens of millions of people. Faith is not theory, it's life. This is not so for everybody, of course. There are a lot of bad people, but there are a lot of good people in the Congo. And through those people, I would say, and this is why I want you to deliver the statement with a special attention, I discovered that in the Congo we can live on the cross without despair, and that our difficulties are often magnified by our selfishness and closure in ourselves. So the Congolese helped me to understand that, and to understand also, and they prompted me to be, I would say, less capricious, and not to get lost sometimes, which is typical in the Western world, to get lost in controversies that are far from our and my real needs, far from the real needs of the people and of the life, of the life of our faith. On the other hand, of course, Congo is also the dirt, the neglect, the disorganization, which is apodictically, I would say, documented when you go in the cities there. So all that shows that much still needs to be done, and this is the reason why I wanted also to deliver the text in a way, in a concrete, in a practical way, to give also some support and some encouragement to recommend the Congolese authorities to take the situation in their hands and to turn the page and to make their country improve.
Taking the situation into its own hands to turn the tide. Here's an excerpt from a speech by Félix Antoine Chilombo, President of the Democratic Republic of Congo, at the UN General Assembly in New York in September this year.
Following a presence of more than 2 decades by the UN, it's time for my country to fully take its destiny in hand and to become the main protagonist of its own stability. We are grateful to the international community and to the United Nations for their support and their partnership. But we are also aware that the phased withdrawal of MONUSCO is a necessary stage to consolidate progress that we have already achieved. Nonetheless, it should be deplored that the peacekeeping missions that have been deployed in various forms for 25 years in the Democratic Republic of the Congo have not been able to stop rebellions and armed conflicts that have torn apart the DRC and the Great Lakes region, nor have they succeeded in protecting the civilian populations.
The President expressed his disappointment at the effectiveness of the UN peacekeeping forces and said that a rapid withdrawal had become necessary in order to reduce tensions between the population and the peacekeepers. For information, the UN stabilization mission, known as MONUSCO, has been stationed in eastern Congo since 1999, that long. This Congolese miner is holding one of the world's most valuable stones in his hands. Coltan is a form of ore, a metal-mineral mixture. In 2022, the politically independent organization Global Witness, an international non-governmental organization, reported that Apple, Tesla and Intel may be profiting from mines in Congo using child labor. NPR, National Public Radio in USA, described it as modern-day slavery in Congo that drives the battery economy. Your Excellency, as you know, the Democratic Republic of Congo has vast untapped mineral deposits such as coltan, cobalt, copper, diamonds and gold with an estimated value of around 22 billion euros. It is obvious that the West in particular is causing a lot of damage everywhere in its struggle for controlling of these natural resources. In other words, the exploitation of raw materials through corruption and disregard for human rights. Isn't the Congo a geological scandal?
Well, as you say, the Congo is somehow a geological scandal. Congo is a ring where the big world powers now are conflicting one with the other, not with arms, the big powers, but economically speaking. And each one wants to gain some space. In a way, I think, what I think is that each one has to do its own homework. We have, I would say, two elements, and we must not be careful not to become too rhetorical when we talk about the Congo, but also it's especially when we talk about Africa in the West, we tend to be a bit rhetorical. So each one has to do its own homework. The countries of the so-called North, the developed countries, I would say, must get, first of all, rid of their superiority complex, which makes them, I would say, indulge in the exploitation of the Congo. And also they must get rid of their complex, I would say, of their besieged fortress complex, precisely because the Congo is not just the business of the Congolese, it's also our own business of the countries of the North. In this case, I talk as someone who comes from Italy and therefore from the North. I mean, we need the Congo because we need its mineral resources. We need its youth. We are living in a country, in the Western countries, where the average age is heading towards the 35, 40 years. In the Congo, the average age is about 18. We need the Congo because we need peace and stability. And if we want peace and stability, and we want it in our home, we must, for instance, prevent the propagation of jihadism, which is taking place in the Congo, unfortunately, in the eastern part. And because of ISIS and because of other, its so-called the Islamic State Central African province. So we must demonstrate also, if we really love the Congo, that all our human rights declarations have not forgotten men. That is, that they have not become somehow an ideological screen that actually hides us from the holder of all those rights, even though this holder lives on another continent. So this is the homework that the northern countries should do. But the Congolese also, they have to do their own part. They must somehow turn the page. They must overcome the conflicts that plague them. In order to overcome these conflicts, they must live in injustice, and they must give reconciliation a real chance, precisely to open up their own future and not to focus only on the past and on victimizing themselves. So they need to do their homework in the sense that they have to do this. They need to convert, if we want to use a Christian words, which is very clear and very pregnant. They need to convert from corruption and greed. And this change is left and depends on their individual freedom. This is why the Pope, which you evoked at the beginning of your question, when he came to the Congo in February last, 2023, he said the change is first and foremost in the hands of the Congolese. However, he also asked others, the Western world, to remove from the, I would say, the collective unconscious, the aberrant belief that it is legitimate to exploit Africa and the Congo. So this is, I would say, what is the homework to be done, and what is the medicine to take. I would say, first of all, as Christians, we need prayer, because only if we have prayer, it is just in prayer that Christians can get the strength to change. If we don't pray, if we are not connected with God, every Congolese will stay in its own little selfishness and its own little and small individual interests. So prayer is necessary, and prayers gives strength in order to convert, for conversion and for the search of the common good. This is just the big issue in the Congo, in Africa, not just the search of the own particular interest. First of all, of the Congolese themselves, that fall prey to corruption, that fall prey to all greeds and all kind of temptation. But for the search of a common good which is bigger and which allows each one to find its own good and its own benefits. And in order to do all this is necessary, I would say, personal commitment. They cannot delegate to others this change, and they need to persevere. In all this, I would say the Church wants to help the faithful to give more space to this conversion. And in order to give more space to this conversion, to give more space to God in their lives. And the Church also encourages all the authorities to understand that this change, this conversion, would benefit their own society and would benefit themselves as well. So this is, I would say, the issue. These are the big issues, and this is somehow the way to overcome them, which is left to the personal commitment, and I would say to the engagement of all the Catholic leaders that are there, that are very active, that are very generous in their commitment, and that try to give the example and to encourage this change.
As you know, Pope Francis traveled to the Democratic Republic of Congo in January of this year, in a sense following in the footsteps of Pope John Paul II, who visited the country in 1980 and 1985. This was the first papal visit to the Congo in 38 years. Hands off Africa. Stop suffocating Africa. It's not a mine to be exploited, nor a country to be plundered, said Pope Francis. Let Africa be the protagonist of its destiny. When asked by a reporter why Africa is so poor, former United Nations Secretary General Kofi Annan summarized the unbalanced situation in Africa in simple words. Africa is not poor. It is a rich continent with very many poor people. Thank you for watching, and God bless.